Hey, what's up, everybody? Lawler here. Recently, there's been a lot of conversation around ways to, I guess, circumvent or find new and upcoming talent. Some of those conversations have been around academy teams. Some of them have been around just different conversations of how to draft and develop players. And one team in particular has actually done this before. In today's video, we're going to be talking about a history of this scenario, as well as something that this organization is doing again in hopes of having a 2-year investment towards a player that is supposed to be this up-and-coming prodigy. What's up, everybody? Lawler here, inside source for all things Rocket League. Today, we're going to be talking about, in particular, Kansas City Pioneers and a specific player who, at the age of 13, has been signed to a 2-year contract in hopes of drafting, developing, giving this player experience in a place financially so they can commit to following their dream, which I think is a really interesting topic at hand because it may set a precedent from now until whenever the heck Rocket League decides to, kind of fall off. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, we're going to talk about a little bit of the history of what happened with the organization Kansas City Pioneers and Beast Mode, talk about what it's led to, and then obviously next steps and kind of my thoughts on the whole thing. Obviously, before we get into that, as always, if you guys do enjoy the content, give it a thumbs up, like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, and let me know your thoughts on the topic down below. I think this is an important thing and could possibly set a precedent and change the landscape of the scene moving forward if it does go well. So first things first, talking about the history. Back in July of 2020, Kansas City Pioneers ended up picking up a new roster. It was Rapid, Seabass, and Beast Mode, were acquired by the Kansas City Pioneers. For those that don't know, at this time, Beast Mode was actually only 14. He was not currently eligible at the time, allowed to compete in the RLCS. He was not of the 15 minimum age requirement that is a rule in the RLCS. Shortly after, they did end up dropping their sub, getting rid of somebody else, and bringing in Memory, which many now know as the former Flight Squad, who kind of came back together. So it became Rapid, Beast Mode, and Memory, which a team that in the RLCS during the first split of Season 10 ended up having like a top 6 performance, performing really well. And this risk that they took of signing a 14-year-old player ahead of time in hopes that when he was 15, that he was going to become part of the starting roster and would be able to handle the stress and the difficulties that come with being a full-time professional in an esport. This one being obviously Rocket League. And it's something that we don't really talk about. The ability for organizations to, once kids turn 13, they're allowed to legally stream on Twitch and do a bunch of other things with parental guidance, setting up bank accounts and all that kind of stuff. This is something that a lot of players, in the best one I can give an example of is Scrubkilla. When he turned 13, even though he was kind of aspiring to go into the RLCS since, pretty much he thought it was a possibility with the kid playing in SART BC and everything else. At the age of 12, this was a conversation, but as soon as he turned 13, he booted up his first stream, had thousands of people watching, and since then has continued to have a successful career, both in the content creation side as well as a professional. And it kind of leads me to the question of, will this become an ongoing thing? Will this become a precedent that is set with Rocket League's age restriction being so young at 15, while other esports try to do 17 or 18 based upon if they're a rated M game like Counter-Strike or something to that extent? 15 being a very young age, a very impressionable age, a lot of things that are happening surrounding them, and being thrown into the public figure setting and being asked of things that I don't necessarily agree with kids at that age dealing with, but it comes with the territory. And I don't know if they actually have an understanding of what that truly means. And there isn't really rules or stipulations put in place to help guide these younger kids to that next step, as compared to stuff like the NFL, where you go through media training and you're used to it from going from high school to being a college recruit and college to the NFL. You're used to being in front of all these things. And even still, some of those players have difficulties and don't know what to do with their money and end up going bankrupt, and their careers end very, very quickly. And that's due to obviously the physical aspect and injuries and stuff like that as well. But with esports, when you're at a young age, at the age of 13, just possibly finishing middle school, getting into high school in the United States, you are being asked a lot to be a public figure in front of a large audience to compete for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And this might become a precedent that, depending if it's handled correctly, could be good or bad. You see things like Guild Academy trying to draft and develop players at an early age in hopes of them kind of picking the cream of the crop or being enticing enough that people will go over there. There's also talks of academy teams where esports organizations basically sign a B team and they use that to draft and develop players. And then if someone on their starting roster isn't playing well enough, they can replace based upon what they have on their bench. A lot of different things like that are being set, as obviously esports is only about 3 decades old. We're still extremely far behind in the esports demographic as compared to traditional sports that have been around for century plus. So it will be interesting to see how this plays out. So the reason why this is all brought up and the reason why this is important is because Kansas City Pioneers has done this again. Obviously, like I mentioned, back in July 7th of 2020, they signed Beast Mode when he was 14, but now they're taking an even stronger approach. With their roster no longer being with them, they went to Shopify Rebellion. They did pick up a new roster of Astro Aeon and longtime veteran Kronovi. But what they're doing is they are signing a content creator who currently is only 13 years old, even younger than what Beast Mode was. For those that don't know who Dralii is, they ended up putting out a post saying, "We have signed 13-year-old Rocket League prodigy Dralii to a multi-year deal. We look forward to supporting him as he continues to develop his gameplay and brand. Welcome to the family." And this is where my gears start turning. Am I okay with this? Am I not okay with this? Are his parents directly involved and are under firm understanding of what this means? Do they understand that he may be giving up certain things, or is he old enough to make these types of decisions with knowing the long-term effect? Is Kansas City Pioneers looking out for his best interest? There's a lot of different things that make me kind of concerned about this topic, but at the same time, I can see the benefits. I can see the fact that Dralii, a young kid, may have the capability to learn from an organization to say, hey, if we start you at a young age, understand these things are going to happen. You're not a pro yet. You will be when you hit 15 if you keep going in the direction you are. But if we set these, I guess, guidelines of, hey, do these kind of things, get this kind of workout regimen, make sure you're healthy mentally and physically, make sure that you're doing these things to make sure that when the time does come, you're not completely overwhelmed. These are things that you can set as an expectation. These are the types of things to look out for. And they use it as like a guidance program to help him understand and prepare what's coming for in the future. I'm actually a huge fan of this. Whether that is happening or not, I have no idea. What Kansas City Pioneers deal that they signed for 2 years happened, his parents legally have to be involved. I hope they got some sort of lawyer or understanding of reading the fine print in a contract and the pros and cons to it, or negotiated along those terms, which I assume they do. But as for Dralii, does he understand truly what this all means, or can he even comprehend that at an age of 13? Because I remember when I was 13 and thinking about this kind of stuff and contracts and all that kind of stuff was just so far out my realm of understanding that I do hope that he has guidance from parental figures and other higher ups that aren't going to lead him astray. I do hope that Kansas City Pioneers is understanding that if this does go poorly, if something like this does happen in a negative sense, they will be heavily scrutinized by someone like myself. Whether they care about that or not doesn't matter, but the general public should keep a close eye on this, because it could set a precedent from now until who knows when for the rest of young up-and-coming talent. You look at the First Killers, the Oskis, the Daniels, the Aquas, these young players that are 13, 14, and getting to the point where they can be signed up within the next 6 to 8 months. And if they have proper guidance and proper structure set in place ahead of time, not only does that make them more enticing, but at the point it asks me, what is too early, or when is too soon? How young are these players going to get picked up and drafted as we continue to go down? Because obviously in the NFL and with college, there's certain things like the NCAA, which is a whole different. It's difficult because I'm trying to think about it in my own like personal moral beliefs and how I feel about the situation. At what point or at what age is too young to get someone involved in this? At what point do we allow them to continue to just be a kid and enjoy life for what it is before they get kind of thrown into the deep end of this esports career, which at the same time is the sooner the better, in my opinion, as well. I understand the big term, the long term, setting up and getting involved as quickly as possible, building a brand and streaming and content and all that kind of stuff. But at what point is it the balance of understanding that, yes, this young person can make their own decisions, but do they actually understand the gravity of what those decisions mean, short term and long term? And I hope, and I really hope that Kansas City Pioneers, as well as the people that are supporting Dralii from the back end, do know and have his best interest in mind, even if he can't realize those on his own yet. And again, I don't want to short end or, discredit Dralii on possibly making this decision himself, but it is a huge opportunity. It's the ability to be with a organization that is directly involved in the pro scene that you're trying to become a player in, while also making sure that you are setting a precedent and practicing correctly and learning the tricks in the trade of what goes into, and having that kind of insight that he may not get if he was doing it on his own for the next couple of years. So this is a pretty big deal. I'm actually really excited about to see the way that goes, but ultimately I'm curious on what you guys have to say. Do you also have the same concerns I do about him possibly being too young? Do you think it's a good idea that him getting signed this young allows him to go through proper things like media training and stuff, where, if Kansas City Pioneers goes and competes at like a DreamHack or a live event when they come back, the ability to bring him with and kind of show him all the different nuances that come along with taking photos and being a media person, without the pressures of also being a pro who's under heavy scrutiny from the public if he underperforms on a live stage. So I guess let me know what you guys feel in the comments below. I think this is a really important one and could set a precedent for the rest of Rocket League moving forward. Or maybe I'm completely off my mark, but I think this is actually a really big deal. And at the end of all of it, massive congratulations to Dralii. Getting signed by an organization at the age of 13 can be very, very beneficial. And I hope he doesn't get burnt out or led down the wrong path, which I don't think is going to happen with Kansas City Pioneers. But again, you just never know. At the same time, this is Kansas City Pioneers putting forth a multi-year deal in hopes that they leave an impression on Dralii, who's at an extremely impressionable age, to say, hey, when you're of age, remember what we did. Remember the things that we did in order to help you. And that can either go very positive, or it could actually come back to bite them if Dralii recognizes that he has better opportunities elsewhere. That's going to wrap it up for this video of Rocket League news. Let me know what you guys think on the topic down below in the comments. If it gets enough likes, maybe we'll do a follow-up. Additional questions, comments, concerns down below, and maybe we'll do some answering of those. But always excited to hear what your guys' opinions are. If you do enjoy this type of content, give it a thumbs up, turn on notifications after you hit subscribe, and share it with all your friends, as it is greatly appreciated. Have a good one. Peace.